Hey guys, and welcome to the long-awaited tutorial on how to set up a new character with the modular multiplayer FPS engine. So today I'm going to show you how to set up the bootcamp soldier, but it's the same process for any humanoid model really. But I choose the bootcamp soldier so that I can supply you with a download of the source files and also of a fully set up bootcamp soldier. So you can download them in the description below and try it out yourself using this exact model. So let's begin by actually importing the model and its textures. So don't forget to set the normal map to normal map and don't check create from grayscale. So next, let's set up a material. Actually, we are going to need two of them. Only has a diffuse map actually and a normal map. So now that that's done, let's make sure it's set to humanoid and check out its avatar. Yeah, that's not how it should look. It should more look like a T-pose and not like that either. It should more look straight and not so twisted. So make sure that your model is correctly aligned, because if it isn't, the animations are going to look horrible when retargeted. So make sure the arms are somewhat straight. Unless you don't plan to have your animations retargeted. But most likely you will have some retargeted. Yeah, that's good enough for now. Let's check out if they actually work. Drag the model in and see how it looks. Yeah, looks as good as it's gonna get. So let's begin the actual process by setting up the ragdoll, or actually making a ragdoll of this model. So for this, in 2018.3 and up, you want to actually unpack the model, or say unpack prefab, but it's actually the model, and also make sure your model does not have any items like the M4 in its hand. Then go to game object, 3D object, and then ragdoll, and just drag in all the variables here. It should be pretty easy. Just follow this structure. Make sure your total mass isn't set to 20. It's very unlikely that he will only weigh 20 kilograms. So I usually use 80. Then look at how they are set up. Now you can see in this case, the lower arm collider, well, it does not look correctly. So let's actually fix that before we actually set up the model for use in the kit. So in this case we need to change the axis. sure that it is in the center. Adjust its height accordingly and the radius. Yeah, that looks much better. But we need to do the same on the other arm. Usually you can just copy and paste this and just change the axis or flip it, but in this case you actually don't need to change anything. Let's see if it all looks correct. Yeah, the legs look good. Yeah, there should not be an empty space here, otherwise you will not be able to hit him. At that point, so make sure that it looks right. Also the head shouldn't be too big, maybe just a bit larger. Oh yeah, that does look about right. So then we proceed by actually duplicating this, because we are going to need two of them. One is going to be used for the ragdoll, and one is going to be used for the model. So let's start with the actual model. Make sure to put this in the player colliders layer. Then on the animator, uncheck apply root motion and assign the kit_player animator. So then we will need to remove all rigid bodies and joints from them, because they will not be needed. So select all of the limbs and body parts and remove the joints and the rigid body. Then we are going to add a player damage multiplier script to them. So here you can set the multiplier and, more importantly, the ragdoll ID. The ragdoll ID is used to apply the force on the actual ragdoll once the player is killed. And now it's actually quite easy. Just follow the hierarchy like this. So this is going to be 0, this is going to be 1 if I hadn't open Visual Studio. Yeah, it happens all the time. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So usually you will have about 10, but it's not actually bad if you have less or more. I mean, having more will actually give you more accurate physics, I'd say. But yeah, make sure that you have all assigned. Then we actually need to tick the is trigger on all your colliders, so you can do all the capsule colliders at once. Then do the sphere collider on the head and the box colliders. So now we just need to set the tag on all of them to player collider. I just select them all. I mean, it's not going to hurt. So yeah, that was the model part. Then we are actually going to use the original model that comes with the kit, which you can find here in this folder under 314 Arts, MarsFPS kits, prefabs, player, third person models, and then just drag either one in the scene. So again, if you're using 2018.3 or up, you need to unpack the prefab. So now we're going to extract all the things that we need, which is actually the weapon enhance holder, the name above head position transform, and the sound voice. Yeah, that should be about everything. And then we can actually delete Ethan. Oh, and also don't forget to add the third person model modern IK relay, otherwise you won't get inverse kinematics on the loadout menu. Assign this and drag the model under the prefab. Assign the animator. And then we need to fill out all of these variables. So it's actually not as complicated as it looks. So in FP Shadow only renderers, you are going to drag all of your renderers. In this case, it's only one skinned mesh renderer. So that's used for setting the cast shadows type to shadows only when you are in first person mode. And then we only need to fill in the colliders. So what you actually need to do, you need to drag them in the same order as you labeled them. So start at the top and drag in all until you get to the very last one, which can take a little while. Yeah, there was 10, and then we need to do the same with the ragdoll collider copy variable in the same order. So yeah, this looks about right. And now the ragdoll go, set this to the actual model. So in this case to the soldier transform, because that is where our ragdoll will be instantiated at runtime. So then we need to drag in the ragdoll prefab later, which we are going to set up now, but let's just make a prefab of this one and let's just name it bootcamp soldier. Oh, almost forgot to drag in the weapons in hand solder. Under the right hand and the sound, voice and name above head position needs to be dragged under the head or wherever you want it to be, but usually under the head. So that's for this prefab so far. We will need to adjust the weapon in hand solder later. Well, let's go to the ragdoll. So for this we are going to drag in the even ragdoll. We will actually do the exact same thing. So we will do the same. Unpack the prefab if you're on 2018.3 or above. Then extract the camera position transform, which you will find under Ethan head 1. Then we are going to delete Ethan, clear these variables, drag in the soldier, and don't forget to remove the animator, and put this in the layer player ragdoll. Yeah, change all children. And we need to set the tag on all of these to blood, so that when you shoot a ragdoll you will get the blood particles and not concrete particles. So the blood tag is the very last one by default. So now we need to drag in the camera position on the head so we don't forget it. And then we just need to drag in the ragdolls, the colliders, and the rigid bodies in the same order as you assigned them on the actual player model prefab. So yeah, that's for the colliders. Now do the same with the rigid bodies, drag them all in. Again, it's super important that you drag them in the correct order, otherwise you will get, let's say, weird behavior. So just double check that you actually assigned them in the same order. Now we are going to need to position the camera position correctly. I mean, usually it's good enough if you like position it at the eyes in the center of the model. That should usually look good enough. So let's name it and make a prefab of it. And this time it's important that it's actually in the resources folder, because this will be synced across the network. That's what the photon view is here for. And it only works if it's in the resources folder. So let's assign the ragdoll to the player model prefab. We can open the prefab, or if you're pre-2018 front free, you can just select it and do it in this inspector. So let's assign this here. So now all that's going to be left is actually creating the game data to use for the player model. So right click in the folder, do create MarsFPSKit player models, and then new. Name this bootcamp soldier. Then drag in the, no, not the ragdoll, the player prefab, and also assign a voice. I just set it to 1 and select the simple voice, which is that very high quality voice that comes with the kit. So now we just need to assign the bootcamp soldier to the game data, which was actually moved to the resources folder in 5.2.0. And let's replace our 2 ethans with the bootcamp soldier so we can check it out. And just go to the main menu and press start. Log in and go to the loadout. So as you can see, it looks almost correctly. I mean, shouldn't your audio come like that? But in the loadout menu, we can actually move it to the correct position by going to this, selecting the weapons in hand holder, and press Shift and F to focus on it. And then you need to move it so that the right hand holds the weapon correctly. We just set it all to 0. Then rotate it so that it looks correctly. It almost does. So yeah, that looks about right. I mean, it does look a tad small. This can actually be scaled. But you gotta look how it looks with your own weapon. So yeah, that looks about correctly. So then do a right click on the transform, press copy component, unpause or quit the game, and select your prefab that you made. Drag it into the scene and select the weapons in hand holder. You can actually do a double click on that one and it will select it directly, and do a right click on the transform and select paste component values. Then you will just need to apply a prefab. Again, in 2018.2 or sooner, this will look slightly different. It will say apply changes here instead of overrides. So let's check out how it looks in game. I first check if it holds the weapon correctly now. Looks good enough. So let's host the game first without bots, just see if it all works correctly. Well, so far so good. Let's go into third person mode. Okay, well, as you can see, the weapon is not actually aligned. I mean, it kind of faces to the left instead of the right. We can actually change this now by selecting the weapons in hand holder and then actually rotating the weapon until it faces actually aiming it. I mean, that looks good enough for me. I'll do the same thing again, drag it in a scene. Select the weapon and hand holder and paste the component values. And apply the prefab again, and let's check again. Host another game. Spawn, go to third person mode. Well, looks good enough for now. Let's check how it looks with the pistol. Yeah, the animations aren't very good. But soon I'm going to make a tutorial on how to actually correctly change these with keyboard animations. They're probably the best in the asset store that you can get for relatively little money.
Reloading, give me suppressive fire.
Actually check out how it looks with bots. Let's do 6. Actually spawn, yeah. That bug is going to be fixed very soon. I mean, we can hit the bots, shoot at us,
Reloading, cover.
What's required to do so. Again, you can find a download to these files, and actually, well, the source files and fully set up one in the description of this video. I'll just move this file here. I mean, it can be any resource folder. It doesn't need to be this one. Especially, you can also create a new one like that. So I'm going to sort this, and then I'll upload the video for you. And see you next time.